So, today we are going to talk about more on derivatives. Okay? So, so last time in the previous video that I shared to you, so we defined derivative of a function as what? Derivative of a function as a limit, no? So we say that the derivative of the function f is given by f prime of x, and that is equal to, so that is equal to limit as delta x approaches 0 of this difference quotient. So we have f of x plus delta x minus f of x. Okay? All over delta x. Of course, if this limit exists, no? If this limit exists, um, if let's say x is a particular has a particular value, if x equals a, then we can write this derivative as f prime at a, that is equal to limit as x approaches a of, we replace x by a, so f of what? A, no? Then delta x is x minus a, so a plus x minus a, so you will get f of x minus, but what is our x? Our x is a, all over, and delta x is x minus a. Yan. Again, as delta x approaches 0, x approaches a. So alternatively, if you have a specific value of x, then this is how we write the formula for the derivative. Okay? So again, if this limit exists, otherwise there is no derivative, meaning the derivative does not exist if the value of this will not be a real number. Um, Derivatives can be one-sided derivative, no? So meaning, because we define limit as, derivative as limit. So remember limit, we have right-hand limit, left-hand limit, we have right-hand continuity, left-hand continuity. Same thing for derivative. So there is what we call one-sided derivatives. So what are these one-sided derivatives? One-sided derivatives. Sometimes we are interested only sa derivative of a function from either left or right only. Okay? So we can talk about number one, right-hand derivative. Right-hand derivative. And then for right-hand derivative, so we say that the derivative of f at x from the right is equal to, we put plus below here, and that is equal to the limit as delta x approaches 0 of but coming from the right to, no? Now, by the way, at a specific value of x, let's say there is a specific value, derivative from the right at a. Yan. So, we have limit as x approaches a from the right, and that is equal to, I mean, limit of what? Of f of x plus, I mean, f of x minus f of a, yan, x minus a. Okay? Do you have any question with that, guys? Huh? Guys? Okay? Or of course, kung gagamitin nyo yung delta, wait, select natin. This is so equals, pwede rin siyang limit as delta x approaches 0 but from the right, no? 0 from the right of f of x, ay f of a, ang x natin a eh, plus delta x minus f of a all over delta x. Okay? Or alternatively, this one. So, if the limit exists, no? If this limit exists, okay? And number 2, we have left hand limit. And left hand limit. Ito yung derivative from the left. Left hand derivative. Derivative from the left. So, what about the formula? Yung formula nyo similar, no? Except that coming from the left, no? Instead of from the right. Okay? Let's move so that we have enough space. Okay, so let's move a little. Yeah. Then we copy this. So instead of, let me rewrite na lang. So we have f prime, then with minus below, so to mean from the left, at x equals a is equal to the limit delta x approaches 0 from the left of f of a plus delta x minus f of a all over delta x. Okay? Alternatively, we have limit x approaches a from the left of f of x minus f of a all over x minus a. Okay? So, if this, of course, if this limit exists. If this limit exists. Now, and if so the derivative at the derivative of f at x equals a exists if and only if. So that's how we write it, if and only if, in your mathematics in the modern world. So if and only if both the limit from the left at a, I mean the derivative from the left at a exists both uh, and f prime from the right at a both exist, both exist and are equal and are equal. Okay, of course we assume that a is what is in the domain of f, huh? In the domain of f. Okay, and the process of finding the derivative is called differentiation. If you perform or compute derivative, so we call that differentiation, yung procedure. Differentiation. Differentiation is the process of differentiation is a process of it's a process of finding the derivative of a given function. Of the given function. Okay? Yeah. Another important thing that we need to talk about differentiation is differentiability. Differentiability of a function. What mean by this? Differentiability of a function. Okay? A function f is said to be differentiable and a function I think this is the process. It sounds better. A function f is said to be differentiable x equals a if f prime at a exists, no? Meaning there is a real number value for this derivative. Okay? And another thing, so we have So 1, a function f is differentiable on an open interval AB if it is differentiable, so meaning the derivative has a value, differentiable at every number, every number let's say any number x that you can find in AB. Okay? Um, if a function, if a function is so if a function is, let's say, okay, so is differentiable at every number in its domain, in its domain, we say that that function is a differentiable function. So it is called a differentiable function. A differentiable function. So when you say a, a differentiable function, it means it is differentiable at every number in its domain. Okay? Like for instance, a polynomial function is a differentiable function because at any value of x that you can plug in, the function has a derivative there. Rational function also, as long as your x is in the domain. Every time you input a value of x that is in the domain of the rational function, the derivative exists. Okay? Yeah. Some differentiable functions. Um, mga differentiable functions. Ano-ano ba yung mga differentiable functions? Differentiable functions. Examples. Polynomial functions. Polynomial function. Differentiable functions. Rational function. Yan. It is differentiable at any number as long as it is in the domain. No? Okay? We have square root function is not differentiable at the endpoint. So, if I have, for instance, f of x equals square root of x. By the way, sa mga transcendental, if you're familiar with transcendental exponential functions, yan, exponential functions, differentiable, yan, logarithmic function. Differentiable yan sa kanyang domain, logarithmic function. Okay? Sine. Yan. Sine. Okay? Trigonometric functions. No? Trigonometric functions. Trigonometric functions. Basta nasa domain, ha? Differentiable sila. Trigonometric functions. Sum. Parang square root, let's say you have f of x square root of x. Ang domain nito, the domain is 0 to positive infinity. Okay? Look at 0. 0 is in the domain, but f prime at 0 does not exist. Okay? So, why? Let's check, no? Why? Now, to get the derivative of f of x equals square root of x, so we apply or we compute left-hand derivative and right-hand derivative. So, let's compute f prime at 0 from the right. So, we have limit as x approaches 0 from the right of f of x minus f of 0 all over x minus 0, x minus a, which is x minus 0. X approaches 0 from the right. What is f of x? Square root of x. What is f of 0? What's the value of square root of 0? 0 over x minus 0 or x, no? Yan. So, and that is equal to limit as x approaches 0 from the right of square root of x over x. But this is indeterminate form 0 over 0, no? Okay? Yan. Now, so, from the right, so let's rationalize. So, or if you want, you can apply definition of square root. So, limit as x approaches 0 from the right. So, we have, let's rationalize na lang. Multiply by square root of x. So, that is x over x is square root of x. Okay? We rationalize the numerator. So, this is now equal to limit as x approaches 0 from the right of 1 over square root of x. And what's the limit of this? So, 1 over going to be 0 through positive values. Therefore, this is positive infinity. Meaning, the derivative does not exist. Okay? So, therefore, f prime of x does not what? Exist. Okay? Yeah. So, again, the derivative does not exist from the right. No? So, what about, so of course, since the right-hand derivative does not exist, no need actually to check the left-hand derivative. So, we can conclude immediately that f prime really does not exist. Okay? So, it's not differentiable, therefore, f or square root of x, so square root of x is not differentiable, Yan. On its domain, no? Not differentiable on its domain. Okay? So, it is differentiable on the subset of the domain 0 to positive infinity. Open interval here. Open from the left. No? Okay? Mm. Let's say we're given f of x is equal to, let's have a piecewise function. So we have 2x if x is, let's say, less than 1, and it is square root of x. Okay, if x is greater than or equal to 1 times 2 natin. Okay, yan. Or square root of ano na lang, para to be simple. Square x saka square root of x. Do you have any question, guys? Guys, you do not chat, ha? Because I don't see the chat box. If x is less than 1, if x is greater than or equal to 1. Sorry. Yung nag-ano yata, nag-join. Yan. So, find f prime at 1. Let's see if the derivative exists here. So we have f prime from the left. Well, let's start with f prime from the left. So that is limit as x approaches 1 from the left of f of x minus f of 1 over all over x minus a, x minus 1. And this is equal to limit as x approaches 1 from the left. So what is f of x? F of x is from the left, so we use x, no? And we use x. What about f of 1? So we use the square root of x. So square root of 1 is 1 all over x minus 1. Okay? So this is cancelled, therefore this is equal to 1, and the limit of 1 is 1 as x approaches 1 from the left. Okay? So what's the limit? Equals 1. F prime of x. Okay? But what is x, by the way? No specific value. Ano specific value ng x? 1, no? That is what we're looking for. Okay? What about derivative from the right at x equals 1? Limit as x approaches 1 from the right of f of x minus f of a. But what is our f of x? All over x minus a. Ano? Ang ating a is 1. No? Teka, sorry. F of 1 all over x minus a. X minus 1. And that is equal to limit as x approaches 1 from the right, our f of x when x is to the right of 1 or equal to 1 is square root of x minus, the value is still 1, no? Same because that's function value, all over x minus 1. To get the limit, we rationalize, no? Because that is indeterminate form. So this is indeterminate form 0 over 0. So what we do, we multiply both the numerator and denominator by yan, square root of x plus 1, no? Plus 1 all over square root of x plus 1. So we now have x minus 1 all over x minus 1 square root of x plus 1. So this is x minus 1. And that is equal to, so this is cancelled, no? So we have limit as x approaches 1 from the right of 1 over the square root of x plus 1. And this is equal to what? 1 over 1 plus 1. So that is 1/2. Both derivatives from the left and from the right exist but are not equal. Therefore, the derivative of f at 1 does not exist. Okay? So f prime from the left at x equals 1 is not equal to the derivative at x equals 1 from the right. So therefore, well, we conclude that f prime at 1 does not exist. Okay? So let's have this last one. Another one. If teka, wait a minute. Let me check the problem. Hanap ko ng problem. So I think the problem is hindi ko makita. Yan, okay. Suppose f and g are two functions whose domains are the set of all real numbers. Satisfying the following properties. Satisfying the following properties. The following properties. Number 1. If I have g of x for every real number x, it is equal to x times f of x plus 1. So, like for instance, g of 2, it means it is equal to 2 times f of 2 plus 1. Having such property. If I have g of sum, this is equal to product of g of x and g of y. So, okay, for all for all real x, real numbers x and y, numbers x and y. Okay. Then the third property, we have limit as x approaches 0 of f of x is equal to 1. Okay? Yan. With these properties, yan, prove that g of x and g prime of x, the derivative of g at any real x is equal to the value of the function at that real x. So that's what we are going to have. Okay? I think we don't have so much space here. Let me put down this. And then here, let and this domain transfer here. And, and here. Okay. So let's have proof. Sorry. So, still alive, guys? Okay. So this is the proof. So we're going to begin with g prime of x. And we want to show that this is equal to g of x. But how do we define g prime of x? That is limit as delta x approaches 0. Dahil g yan, g prime, so g rin ang gagamitin ko rito. G of x plus what? Plus delta x minus g of x. Yan. Okay? All over delta x. Okay? Yan. Let's manipulate that applying properties stated in the problem. Properties of f and g. This is g of sum. But there is a property for g of sum. So, g of sum can be expressed as product of functions. So, g of the first number in the sum times what? I can express that as a product. G of the second number in the sum, delta x. So, delta x is my y. Minus g of x. Okay? All over yan, delta x. Now, I can factor out g of x in the from the numerator, no? So, delta x approaches 0 of g of x multiplied to g of delta x, then plus minus 1, no? Yan. All over delta x. Okay? Then, delta x, limit as delta x approaches 0 of. Now, g of x, I can write that as what? So, g of delta x, I mean. So, there is a property so that we can simplify this into another form, no? Or write that in another form. So, we know that g of x is equal in terms of f. because there is a relationship of the limit, but in terms of x, f of x. So I can express g of x as x f of x plus 1. My x here is delta x. So delta x can be written delta x, so that is my x, f of x, but what is my x? Delta x. Then plus 1, plus 1. So delta x, f of delta x, plus 1. So that is g of delta x. Then minus, so I have still here minus 1. Okay? Now, over delta x. We're almost done. No? So let's see. So g of x, so we retain this, no? Kasi later we want to come up with that. But this is simply what? Delta x times f of delta x, because 1 minus 1 is 0 all over delta x. So we can now cancel delta x, no? From both the numerator and denominator. So what is left now, guys? Ano lang natira? Limit delta x approaches 0 of ito. I can split this kasi nag-exist naman ang limit ni f of x, no? So g of x times limit of that, limit as delta x approaches 0 of f of delta x. Okay? But this takes the form, this limit takes the third property. Ang x natin, yung delta x, limit of f of delta x as delta x approaches 0. So it satisfies limit of f of x as x approaches 0. That is equal to 1. Okay? So we now have g prime of x is equal to, what's the limit of g of x? That's considered constant relative to delta x. Delta x is our variable. So that is g of x. Times limit of the second one, this part is 1. So that is 1. Therefore, so we're done, no? We have shown that g prime of x is equal to g of x. Okay? Okay, guys? Yeah. So, that's it. That ends the proof that g prime of x is equal to g of x, satisfying the given properties. Do you have any question, guys? Guys? La. What about derivatives ng some trigonometric function? Like for instance, derivative ng sine, no? Yan. So given f of x is equal to sine x. So find f prime of x. So again, f prime of x is equal to limit as delta x approaches 0 of sine. But what is x? X plus delta x. That is my f of x plus delta x minus f of x minus sine x all over delta x. Okay? So again, this is f of x plus delta x minus f of x. And that is equal to limit as delta x approaches 0 of, I can express this as what? Kasi indeterminate form to eh. So this is 0 over 0, no? So let us manipulate this sign of sum. I can write that as sine of the first, cosine of the second, then minus plus, no? Plus cosine of the first, sine of the second, then minus sine x. So this part, I copy. Uh, it's hard to draw a straight line. Hindi maganda. Yan. All over delta x. So limit as delta x approaches 0, from first term and last term, I can factor out negative sine x. If I factor out negative sine x, I will get 1 minus 1 here minus cosine delta x. Then plus this part, no? Cosine x sine delta x all over delta x. Okay? So equals. So 1 minus cosine delta x over delta x. That's a formula for limit ng trigonometric, no? So nag-exist sa limit niyan. Ito naman negative sine x saka cosine x considered constant. I can just move it out, no? Yan, constant yan. Negative sine x. Yan. Then I can now split, no? Limit kasi nag-exist naman ang limit ni 1 minus cosine of delta x over delta x. Yan. Delta x approaches 0. Then plus cosine is constant also, cosine x. Sine delta x over delta x, nag-exist din ang limit niyan. Sine of delta x over delta x. Delta x approaches 0. So this is equal to what? 0. This limit. This limit is equal to 1. So therefore, what's now the derivative of sine? This is 0. So this is simply cosine, no? Because this is 1. Okay? Cosine x. That's it. A question, guys? La? Ay, walang question? Given f of x equals cotangent of x, no? Yan. Ang hinahanap natin derivative ng cotangent x. Find f prime of x. Okay, again, what is f prime of x? That is limit as delta x approaches 0 of ang ating f of x plus delta x is cotangent of x plus delta x minus f of x minus cotangent x all over delta x. Okay? Equals. Alam niyo ba ang identity ng cotangent of sum? May identity yan. That is cotangent of the second, cotangent of the first, minus 1 all over what? Cotangent of the second plus cotangent of the first. Okay? So that's for that, no? Identity pa lang to ni what? Identity yan ni cotangent ng sum. That is cotangent of x plus delta x. Okay? Any question with that, guys? So therefore, you can plug in here. We have f prime wait a minute, f prime of x is equal to, yeah. So ano yung ilalagay ko sa numerator, guys? Parang di kasya. So f prime of x is equal to, what will I put in the numerator, guys? Okay, nakikinig ba? Cotangent delta x cotangent x minus 1 all over cotangent of delta x plus cotangent of x, okay, minus cotangent x all over delta x, no? Then take the limit, okay? Ay, naiwan the other part. Ayun yung tumang. Naka. We have limit as delta x approaches 0. Let's simplify. Multiply natin both the numerator and denominator by what? By this LCD na to. Yan. Pag minultiply ko yan, what will happen sa numerator? This will just be cotangent delta x, cotangent of x minus 1. Ito mamumultiply doon. Okay? Yan. So we have minus cotangent delta x cotangent squared x, then cotangent x, then minus cotangent squared x, yan. Okay? All over delta x, pero sa ilalim magkakaroon ng cotangent delta x plus cotangent x. So, anong meron dito? I can cancel this, no? Pwede na yata ang cancel nito. Ito at saka ito, no? Okay? So, anong natira sa taas? Guys, parang mga pipi to, mga batang to. Hindi malam kung saan ako nagtuturo, kung sa youth and deaf school. Anong natira, guys? Negative. Di ba negative yan? Negative 1, negative of 1 plus cotangent pag pinactor out ko. Negative 1 of, negative of 1 plus cotangent squared. So, delta x, the denominator, cotangent delta x plus cotangent x. Okay. Then, numerator, negative 1 plus cotangent squared x. Yan. Okay, guys? Pero, ano ang identity nito? That is what? Delta x approaches 0, negative cosecant squared. Yan. Again, that is negative cosecant squared x all over delta x and cotangent of delta x plus 1. Okay? Pero may problem tayo. So, anong problema guys? Dito, anong problema? Guys, yung ilalim, di makakancel. Yung, ano no? Yung, what you call this? Ito. Yan. No? So, kailangan nating i-manipulate yung denominator, no? Ang cotangent ay equal saan, children? So, kunin natin yung ilalim muna. Let's work on the denominator. Yung cotangent, ito, yan. Yung delta x times what? Yan. Ay, ba't nawala yung ano ko pala? Sorry. Yung ilalim ko, hindi nyo kine-check. Hindi ko, siguro iba nagla-lunch na. Hindi na nakikinig. Cotangent x. Okay? Yan. Ang cotangent x can be written what? Ito. Cosine. Cosine of what? Guys. Ha? Cosine ano yan? Guys. Cosine ng ano? Delta x over sine of yan, delta x, no? Okay ba guys? Yan. Plus cotangent of x. Yan. Okay? Ito yan, yung part na yan. So, yan. So, I can write that cosine of delta x over yung delta x na to, pag minultiply ko sa loob, kung multiply ko sa loob, di ba? Ilalagay ko na lang sa ilalim ni sin delta x. Yan. Pag sinimplify ko to, naka-times 2 yung delta x sa cosine. Okay? So, I divide by delta x, the numerator. I divide also the delta x, the denominator, yung sin delta x. Ito yung gitna. Plus delta x cotangent of x. Yan. O, ito, alam natin ang limit niyan. So, balik na tayo sa derivative. Limit as delta x approaches 0 of ang cosine x, considered constant yan eh. Yan, delta x, considered constant over, ito yung ating familiar na kayo dito. Delta x over delta x. Ano ang limit niyan? 1 as delta x approaches 0. Plus delta x cotangent of x. Ang delta x nag-approaches 0 times cotangent. Tangent is considered constant here. Cotangent. So therefore, this will just be 0. So, limit ng cosine delta x. Constant yan. Pwede ko siyang ilabas. Cosine delta x over what? Pwede na siyang cosine delta e ay limit. Pwede ko na siyang limit ng numerator, limit ng cosine delta x approaches 0 over limit delta x approaches 0 of sine delta x over delta x. Okay? Plus limit delta x approaches 0 of yan, delta cotangent times delta x, na? Delta x times cotangent. So, what's the limit of this? 1. What's the limit of this? 0. 0 kasi yung 0 yan eh. Ito, limit is what? Kaya lang nasa ilalim to, no? Teka. Kailangan nasa ilalim, sorry. Gawin na lang natin. Separate na lang natin. Ungroup. Ito hindi pa siya, yan. Ito ay denominator pa lang to, ha? Denominator. Plug in na lang natin. Lagyan ko ng asterisk. Yan ay yung ilalim. Okay? Yung ilalim. Ito hindi equal dito, ha? Kinuha ko lang yung limit. Yan. Yan. Ito ngayon ay equal sa limit ng cosine 0. Cosine 0 is equal to 1. Ang limit pala ng ilalim is 1. Therefore, limit, yung f prime natin, of x is equal to, ano ang yan. So, iba to ha, iba. So, ang ang taas, yan. Ang ilalim, 1. So, therefore, negative cosecant squared. Yan yung derivative. Okay na, guys? Oh, may question, guys? Guys, kung wala, lagi na lang wala. Ay, nagkaroon ng ano kaya ito? Nagkaroon ng, what you call this, dumi. Guys, lahat yan meron. Lahat meron. Ano ba ito? Ano yan, nawawala yan pag, what you call this? Pag, so, let's now have derivative. Lecture calculus yun. Teka, exit ko muna. Then, balik ko yan. Share ko ulit. Anong pamagat nun? Lecture. Sana wala nang guhit. Yan. Share ko ulit ha. Present. A window. Ito, share. Okay. Nakikita nyo guys, ulit. Guys. Okay. Differentiate. This time we're going to use another way of finding derivatives, that is by differentiation formulas or rules. So, differentiation formulas or rules. Differentiation formulas or rule. Formulas or rules. Okay? Yan. So this time, we are not going to use increment method or delta, no? We will be directly differentiating functions by the use of formulas. But actually, these formulas that we're going to have are what? Can be derived using increment method. So let's summarize them. So those formulas, okay? So let u be equal to f of x, and also let v be equal to g of x, and let us assume that these two functions are differentiables. Okay? Let these two functions be differentiable. Then, we have the following formulas. Number one, ito yung title, derivative of a constant. We start with derivative of a constant function. If a function is constant, so what's the formula for the derivative? So let's say may u, that's my function, and happens to be constant, let's say 3, negative 4, pi, and so on. So the derivative with respect to x, by the way, we use this formula to mean operator para siyang plus. So every time you see this operator o kaya ito, it means you are going to perform differentiation. So d here is not a factor that you can cancel. It is just one symbol considered. Okay? Yan. Pwedeng capital D, pwedeng small, pero pag small, parang quotient form ang notation. So, the derivative of constant. So, let's say the constant is here. The derivative of constant is equal to 0. So, that's the formula. Okay? Ulitin natin. Parang hindi maganda yung sulat. So, again, the derivative with respect to x of a constant is equal to 0. Yan. So, of course, where c is constant. C is constant. And we mean it a real constant, because we are dealing with real valued functions over the set of real numbers. Number 2. Sulat muna natin all the formulas. Number 2. If I have derivative ng derivative of simple power. Derivative of a simple power function. Simple power function. Yan, power function. So, what's the formula? The derivative with respect to x of a simple power of the form x to the n is equal to. So what's the derivative? It is proven that the derivative is n, x, then you subtract 1 from the exponent. Okay? So here n is constant. N is constant. Number 3. We have derivative of a constant multiple of a function. A constant multiple, meaning constant times a function. A constant multiple of a function. Constant multiple of a function. What's the formula? Memorize this, that person who knows in the near future will now have face-to-face. You can no longer look at your notes. Yan. Derivative with respect to x of a constant multiplied by a function, let's say that is u, where u is of course f of x, no? It is equal to constant times the derivative of u with respect to x. Meaning, I can just put the c out and multiply to the derivative of u, whatever is that, no? Yan. So here, c is constant. Where c is constant. C is constant. Next, the fourth formula, we have number 4, derivative of sum. And derivative of sum of a sum of functions. A sum of functions. Actually, yung difference, special case na nito yun. The formula, derivative with respect to x of u plus v. What's the derivative? Derivative of the first term with respect to x plus the derivative with respect to x of the second term in the sum. Yeah. The sum of the derivative of a sum is equal to sum of the derivatives. We have number 4, 5 now. Derivative of difference, no? Actually, just make it minus here. Okay. Derivative of a difference of functions. Difference of functions. Derivative by some difference of function. Of functions. Okay? So, what's the formula, guys? O, yun din, no? Instead lang na sum, difference. U minus v, and that is equal to derivative of u with respect to x minus the derivative of u with respect to derivative of v with respect to x. Yan. Now, 4 and 5 can be extended, no? 4 and 5 can be extended. So, generalized form. We call this the generalized form of, meron pa rin nag-a-admit. Yan, we call this the generalized form, no? Generalized sum. Yan. Difference. Pwede rin actually difference, no? Yan. Ang formula, the derivative with respect to x of u sub 1 plus u sub 2 plus u sub 3 all the way to u sub n. Yan. What's the derivative? Derivative of the first term plus derivative of the second term. Yan, nangangatin ng lalamunan ko. Yan. Derivative of the third term plus plus derivative of the last term. Yan. Okay? Then we have number 6. We have derivative of a product. Derivative of a product of what? Product of two functions. Product of functions. And of course, it can be extended also. Product of functions. So we have derivative with respect to x of u times v, and that is f of x times g of x. The first derivative with respect to x of the second plus the second derivative with respect to x of what? Of the first. Yan. So that's how we differentiate product. Ay, wala. Kala ko may pumasok. Ilan na tayo? 90? Konti. Okay? So we now have, kung kayo merong tatlong functions, ayan, kung tatlo, you can differentiate. You consider first, the first or the last two factors, let's say as your second function. Number 7, derivative of, number 7, derivative of a quotient. Derivative of a quotient. Of a quotient. Okay? Quotient of functions. Ano naman formula for quotient? The derivative with respect to x of u over v. That is quotient. O, gawa muna tayo ng quotient. So, the denominator, derivative with respect to x of the numerator minus the numerator, derivative with respect to x of the denominator. I use the denotation for derivative over the square of the denominator. As a special case, if I have derivative with respect to x of a constant over function, so that is equal to negative constant derivative of the denominator all over the square of the denominator. You just replace u by c. So, and the derivative of that is 0. The c, therefore you just have this term, no? Over v squared. C is constant. Is constant. Okay, guys? Ano yung tumunog? Wala. Kala ko may pumasok. Okay? And then, we have the last one, the general power formula for differentiation, no? Derivative of general power. That before we have a simple power. Derivative of a general power. Derivative of a general power. Yan. General power. Okay? So, the derivative with respect to x of u to the n. Yan. It is equal to n times u, but you have to subtract 1 from the exponent, same before. Ang only difference that you have to multiply pa ito ng derivative ng u with respect to x. I-differentiate pa yung base. Okay? So we call this the general power formula. Yan. Any question, guys? Guys, let's have exercises. Find the derivative. Find the derivative of the given function. This time, we are going to use now not the increment method, but the formula. Any of those or combination of those. Number 1. Let's say my function is negative 3. So that is a constant. So what is the derivative? What is f prime? So derivative with respect to x of negative 3. So notice ha, if I differentiate, so I put f prime, no? So hindi just equal. Okay, because we are now changing to another function. And what is the derivative? It is equal to 0. Okay? Yan. Because it is a constant. Derivative of a constant 0. The graph of a horizontal line is, of a constant function is horizontal line, and its derivative is 0 because, remember, derivative is interpreted as a slope. The slope of any horizontal line is 0. Number 2, if I have f of x equals, for instance, 3 x to the 6. What is f prime of x? That is, drop the exponent, copy the base, subtract 1 from the exponent. See? If I have, let's say, y is equal to 1 over, let's say, 6th root of x. First, we're going to rewrite this into what? Into power form. So this is x to the negative 1 over 6. So we can now differentiate. So y prime equals, by the way, if you want to be specific, you write this as you write first derivative with respect to x of x to the 6, and that is equal to, okay. So derivative with respect to x of x to the negative 1 over 6. What's the derivative, guys? Equals, yan. Drop the exponent, negative 1 over 6 times x, subtract 1 from the exponent, minus 7 over 6 ang exponent na. So that's it. Or pwede rin namang isulat ng with positive exponent. Negative 1 over ang answer. X to the 7 over 6. Yan. Okay? You practice finding derivative. If I have y is equal to negative 5, then x to the 3 fifths. 3 fifths. So y prime is equal to derivative with respect to x of negative 5 x to the 3 fifths. Yan. Diba constant yung negative 5? I can put that out. Then get the derivative with respect to x of x to the 3 pips. So, but what is the derivative of x to the 3 pips? That is 3 over 5 x to the, so you have to subtract 1 from the exponent. So, it becomes negative 2 thirds. 2 pips, sorry. 2 pips. And finally, it is equal to what? Negative 3 yan, over x to the 2 pips. Or pwede rin namang to the negative 2 pips if you want. Yan. Okay? O, question guys. Guys. Kaya when you are asked to get the derivative and there is no required method, you use by formulas. Unless it is stated that you are going to use the 4-step rule or the definition of a limit, meaning of derivative, meaning by limit method. So, increment din yun. No? Yan. Pag wala, you can use this. Y is equal to 2x to the 7 minus 3x to the 4 thirds, then plus 8x minus 7. Ano ang derivative ng y? I'm using different notations for derivative para you become familiar with them. So, derivative ng kanan. Yung kanan is sum difference, combination, no? So, what is said about derivative of sum difference, guys? Anong sabi? You can differentiate term by term, no? Yan. Let's differentiate the first, the second term, and the third, and the fourth. Okay? Lagay ko lang dito yung guide natin. Ito yung function. Para lang you will know what we are differentiating. So, what is the derivative? So, 14, no? Pwede yung diretso na. 14, yan. X to the 6 minus 4 thirds times 3. So, that is minus 4. X to the 1 third. And then, dahil minus 1. Plus derivative of 8x is 8. 8, derivative ng x is 1 raised to 0. No, okay? So, so we have x to the 0 is 1 considered, no? Minus 0, derivative ng 7. Negative 7. So, finally, what is the derivative of y with respect to x, guys? Yan, copy. 14x to the 6 minus 4x to the 4 thirds plus 8. Okay. A question, guys? What about if I have g of x is equal to 2x to the 5th and then 3x is to the 4th minus 5. Now, you can expand so that you can apply term by term integration, or you can differentiate directly considering it as a product. So this is our u and this is our v. So u, not me. It's you, not me. Yan. Derivative of the second. Yan. Derivative of the second plus the second derivative of the first. This is equal to. So once you started differentiating, you have to write g prime na or y prime, derivative symbol na. The first, what's the derivative of the second? That is 12x cubed. Derivative of negative 5, 0. I will not write that anymore. 3x to the fourth minus 5. So there is no derivative operator. We just copy a derivative of. So we perform differentiation. 10x to the fourth. Okay. So let's distribute. 24x to the 8 plus 30x to the 8 minus 50x to the fourth. And this can be combined into 54x to the 8 minus 50x to the fourth. Okay? That is g prime of x. And the question, guys? Guys, practice ha. Dahil sunod-sunod na to, differentiation ng mga higher order, and then implicit differentiation, transcendental. We are now on algebraic differentiations na. Yan. Number 6. What about number 6? Let's say f of x is equal to 3x to the fourth minus 5 all over 2 minus plus ito na rin, 2x to the fourth plus 3. So we can take this as our u, and we can take this as our b. So you have u over b, quotient. Right, guys? Okay, quotient. But I think it will not fit here. Let's transfer this to the next slide. Wala na yata ang slide. We're running out of slides. Dami na pala. Wala na nga. Let's make another one. Lagay muna natin dyan. Then design, format, make it green. So look at how I changed the color of the board. And if you know this, so you can make your own board. Duplicate. Okay. Copy. Again, X. Then Control V. Okay, that's number 6. So that is considered quotient. So we apply quotient rule. F prime of X. F prime of X. Oh guys, what will I write here? Gawa tayo. Let's make a fraction. The denominator, copy the denominator. So it is low, high, low. Low, derivative ng high, like that. Minus high, derivative of low. 2x to the fourth plus 3, the denominator, derivative with respect to x of the numerator. I use the D notation for the derivative. And I am using the different notations so that you know how to use them. Minus the numerator, 3x to the fourth minus 5, derivative of the denominator. What is that? 2x to the fourth plus 3. And all over the square of the denominator. Okay? So we have copy 2x to the fourth plus 3. What's the derivative, guys, of the second term? Anyone? I mean this part. 12 x cubed, no? Then 0. I will not write that. Minus 3 x to the fourth minus 5 derivative 8 x cubed. Then plus 0. We don't write that anymore. Di ba? Dali. Kung galing kayo sa STEM, sa senior high, you know already this. 2x to the fourth plus 8 raised to 2. Ay, bakit ba 8? 3 yun, no? Oo. Hindi ko na, kuminsan, nahirapan ako tumingin sa screen. Kaya check nyo what I am writing. Let's simplify. Oh. Pwedeng factoring, pwede namang distribute. Distribute na lang natin. 24 x to the 8 plus 36 x cubed minus 24 x to the 7. Ito 7 din pala sir. Sorry. So this is x to the 7 also. 3 plus 4, 7. Then, minus plus now. 40 x cubed. Actually, that's already the derivative. This, we are just trying to simplify. Sorry. Ay, ito ko nangapihin na muna ko. 24 minus 24. 0 na? So this is 0. So what is 36 plus 40? 76. So then x cubed all over 2x to the fourth plus 3 quantity squared. Okay, so that's the derivative of such quotient. A question guys? Diba very easy? Mani Badjobol ba? Guys? Yan. What about number now? 7. Let's say I have y is equal to 3 times 5 minus 3x squared plus x to the fifth quantity to the fourth. Okay? If you're going to expand, of course, it's hard, no? Especially this contains 3 terms, raised to 4. Expansion of that is really hard. But so we can consider this u to the n. And then apply the derivative of general power, no? Of a general power. So let's do that. So y prime is equal to, so derivative with respect to x of this right side, 3 times 5 minus 3x squared plus x to the fifth. But what is the derivative of constant times function? So we can put the 3 out and then get the derivative of this, no? Anong derivative nito? 4, then copy the base. Yan. Then, subtract 1 from the exponent. Then, get the derivative ng base. Kukunin pa nyo yung derivative ng base. Derivative ng 5 minus 3x squared plus x to the fifth. That is for the general power. So, this is 12. Then, copy. Then, derivative. What's the derivative? 0. Negative 6x plus 5x to the fourth. Yan. Okay? Yan na yung sagot. Hindi na naman pwede i-simplify yan. Pwede natin, if you want, just other form, factored form. No? May pwede tayo factor dito, yung x. So, I can have it 12x. And then, ito raised to 3, no? Tama ba? Raised to 3. So, we have, pag pinactor ko ang x dito, magiging 5x to the 4th, right? Cube, no? 5x cubed minus 6 na lang. Then, multiplied by 5 minus 3x squared plus x to the 6. Okay, raised to 3. O, yan. Pwedeng ito, pwedeng ito. Guys, okay? Ano ba dapat? 3? Ay, 5, no? O, mali lang ang kopya ng teacher. O, mali. Naduling lang ako. Mali kasi ng screen. Alam niyo, pag nasa screen, hindi ko masyadong nakikita yan. Okay na, guys? Okay? Okay, thank you. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to write detail, no? Like this. Y prime, you can go immediately. 4 times 3, then copy the minus 1 derivative of the base. As in like here. Let's say number 8. So if I have y equals cube root of 4 plus 3x squared and then minus 2x to the 7. Yan. Una, you write first, rewrite. Do not differentiate immediately. Kasi it's not in the proper form. You have to express this as what? As a general power, no? So, 4 plus 3x squared minus 2x to the 7 raised to 1/3. We are not yet differentiating, ha? O, differentiate. So, y prime equals, derivative of y is y prime. O, what about this? Drop the exponent. Yan. Copy the base. Yan. We copy the base. Subtract 1 from the exponent. What happens to the exponent? Minus 1. It becomes negative 2/3. Minus 2 over 2. Yan. 2 times the derivative ng loob. I can go directly. What's the derivative ng loob? 6x. 0, 6x minus, is that right, children? Minus 14 x to the 6. So, yan na. Okay? But, of course, pwede naman i-factor yung x para lang, tsaka yung may common, no? No, I can cancel it here. Pag pinactor out yung 2, it will be, ay, wala palang makakancel. 2/3. 2, factor out 2 from 6 and 14. So, 2, then also we can factor out x. So, unahin ko na lang tong factor na to. 6 minus, ay magiging 3. 3 minus 7x to the 5th, no? Okay? Times 4 plus 3x squared minus what? Minus 2x to the 7 raised to negative 2/3. So, that's the derivative. Okay? So, ito yung pinaka-final. Question? No question? Let's have number, ano tayo? What number na? 9. 9. 9. So, let's say I have y is equal to 2x squared plus 5 raised to 4 multiplied to 3x minus 7 raised to 6. Yan. Tingnan natin. Okay? Oh, 8 ko kaya ito. So let's up to the 8. That is considered product. For the meantime, you treat this general power. This is every factor is a general power, no? Pero the way it is written, we treat first as product. UV. Ito muna yung UV. So, we have the first. Yan. Derivative of the second. Yan. With respect to x. Plus the second. Yan. Copy. Raised to 8. Derivative of the first. Yan. So, that is equal to, o copy, 2x squared plus 5 raised to 4. Oh, what's the derivative? That's general power. Drop, copy, subtract 1 from the exponent, derivative of the base. So, 3. Okay? Did you get that, guys? What is the derivative of this general power? Drop the exponent, copy the base, subtract 1 from the exponent. So, 7 now. Derivative of the base. Derivative of 3x minus 7 is 3. So, second group, 3x minus 7 raised to 8 times derivative. This is raised to 4, no? Sorry, this is raised to 4. So, drop the exponent. Drop the exponent. Copy the base. Yan. Raised to 3 na, no? Derivative of the base. 4x. Yan. We're done. The rest is algebra. Let us just simplify. 3 times 8, 24. Then, 2x squared plus 5 raised to 4. Then, 3x minus 7 raised to 7. Check very well the exponent, ha? Because I might not copy the expo. 4 times 4, 16. Then, 3x to the 3x minus 7 raised to 8. 2x squared plus 5 quantity to the third. Yan ang sagot, no? Pero that's not considered simplest form. Normally, if you have like this, you express it in a compact form. That is in product form, no? So, because there is still plus. There is common. 16, 24. What is common there? 8, right? 8. Sa 2x squared plus 5 raised to 4 at saka 2x squared plus 5 raised to 3. Ang common is 2x squared plus 5 raised to 3. So, sa 3x minus 7, the common is the one having exponent 7. Am I right, children? Yan. If I factor out these quantities from here, so I will get 24 divided by 8, that is 3. 2x squared plus 5 raised to 4 divided by this. Ang cancelled ay what? Naka-cancel. Ito cancel eh. Matitira na lang 2x squared plus 5. Yan. Raised to 1. 4 minus 3, no? So, ito naman divided by this. Ilan ang matitira? 16 divided by 8, 2. Ito cancelled. Itong 2x squared plus 5 raised to 3. 8 minus 7, 1. So, isang 1, 3x minus 7. Let's simplify further. 8, 2x squared plus 5 raised to 3. And then 3x minus 7 raised to 7. Then, what about this? This is 6x what? What is this, children? 6x squared, na? Plus, ito naman, 6x. Then, 15 minus 14 here, plus 1. Yan. Am I correct, children, in simplifying that? Guys? Okay now? So, that's y prime. Okay? Guys? Hi, guys. By the way, there is a special formula if you have a square root. Yan. Derivative of square root. Derivative of yan, square root of u. If you have derivative of square root of u, derivative with respect to x of square root of u, that is equal to derivative with respect to x ng u over 2 square root of u. So that is how to use, how to differentiate the square root. So let's illustrate that. So example, if I have y equals square root of 4 minus 3x to the fifth, you can go directly without changing the exponential to what? To power form. Okay? So remember, this is just for square root. If cube root not allowed, you have to write in power form. So y prime equals derivative of the radical. But what is the derivative of the radical, children? Anong sabi? That is equal to, y prime is equal to derivative of the loob, derivative of the radicand, derivative of radicand. 4 minus 3. I'm doing it step by step, but you can do it mentally as you become familiar. Over 2 is square root of 4 minus 3x to the fifth. But what is the derivative of 4 minus 3x to the fifth? So that is negative 15x to the fourth. Then all over 2 is square root of 4 minus 3x to the fifth. Yan, this is y prime. Okay, so that's it. Okay, guys? Okay. You can also get the derivative of the derivative. And the derivative of the derivative, you can again get the derivative. And you can continue getting the derivative. Because the derivative itself is a function. So you can again differentiate that. So as long as that is differentiable. Okay? So, and after getting the derivative, you can still get the derivative until magsawa ka, until you become what? Exhausted in getting the derivative. Okay? So of course you will be asked to get a particular order of the derivative. We call this higher order derivatives. Yan. Higher order derivatives. Okay? Yan. Higher order, yan. Higher order derivatives. Derivatives. So, meaning we can talk of first derivative. The derivatives that we had so far, they are first derivatives. If you get the derivative of the derivative, second derivative, and the derivative of the second derivative is the third derivative, and so on. So, we assume that the following are differentiables, no? Yan. Let's say f prime, f double prime, f triple prime, and so on until we have f. And then if you have more than 3, you cannot write it as prime. So you enclose a number here and then parentheses put on top. B B functions, B function, and B a function. Ano na lang kaya? Wait. Sorry. Let's have f prime. And this is double prime, triple prime, and let me write this as fourth derivative. B, uh, first derivative, first derivative, first, second, third, and fourth, and so on, no? And so on. Derivatives of what? Derivatives of, not on so on. Let me have that, third, uh, what's a better word? So we have fourth, that, nth, and derivatives. And derivatives of, yeah, of a differentiable function, a differentiable function f. Yan. Mga, mga yan, no? So, we call this, yan, higher order derivatives. We call, yan, we call f double prime, f triple prime, and so on up to, yan, nth derivative for n greater than or equal to 2. Yan. Higher order derivatives. Higher order derivatives of what? Of f. Derivatives of f. Okay? Yan. So, for instance, given y equals f of x, if you get the derivative with respect to x of y, so that is y prime, that is f prime of x. Yan. Mga notation for derivative. Yan. So, higher order derivatives, for higher order, we have second derivative. That is how we write it. Second derivative with look at the way I write, ha? Yeah. Second derivative with respect to x. In terms of prime notation, like this, or f double prime of x. So if I have third derivative, yeah, with respect to x, so this is second derivative. Second derivative. Okay? Yan. With respect to x is equal to y triple prime, and this is f triple prime of x. Yan. So we call this the third derivative. Okay? This is the third derivative. So, and if I write this, so fourth derivative. Kaya lang, if fourth derivative, we normally write like this. Okay? F, yan, 4, yan, on top. So, it means fourth derivative. And so on, no? In general, we have that. We call this the nth derivative of y. Y with quantity like that there. And then, it's like this. We call this the nth derivative. Nth derivative of y. Nth derivative of what? Of y or of f of x. Or f of x. And with respect to what, guys? Ano ba respect to? to x. Okay? Yan. For instance, let us have particular examples. So, find the indicated derivative. Find the indicated derivative. Masakit pala sa kamay. Pagod if you write and write. Ay, go. Find the derivative, indicated derivative. Buti na lang sa ulo ko itong calculus na to. Yung mga example natin, I just make it. So, kasi nga, kung kukopya ka pa sa libro, will take time. Number 1, y is equal to 4 minus 8x to the 4th plus x to the 5th. Oh. Let's say, I want to find the third derivative. Oh, what's the third derivative? First, we get the first derivative. 0, negative 32x cubed plus 5, simple power, x to the 4th. First derivative. Second derivative, we have negative 96 x cubed, x squared, no? Then plus 20x cubed. Finally, that's the third derivative. This is what we're looking for. Okay? So, negative. So, what is 96 times 2? Guys, 192. 192x, then plus 60x squared. That's it. Yeah. If you want, you can write that in factored form. But the given is expanded is alright. Did you get that? Do you know how to get higher order derivatives? Okay. If I write, let's say, f of x, but do you be sure you know how to write properly the notation? Huh? F of x is equal to, let's say I have x plus 3 all over x minus 1. Oh, what is the second derivative? Yan. And I want to find the value of that. Pag sinabi f double prime at 2, what is the value of the derivative, second derivative, when x is 2? Not just what? Not just the derivative at any value, but at a particular value. First, let's get the formula for the second derivative. So, to get the formula for the second derivative, we first determine the first derivative. That is quotient. Okay, guys? How do we differentiate quotient? The denominator, derivative of the numerator, that is 1, minus the numerator, derivative of the denominator, that is also 1, all over the square of the denominator, x minus 1 quantity squared. Okay? So, that is equal to, when simplified, is x minus 1, then minus x minus 3, all over x minus 1 quantity squared. Oh, simplifying further, we get negative 4, negative 4 over what? Over x minus 1 raised to 2. So that is the first derivative. We're not yet done. Let us express this in product form because this is in quotient form. It's easier to differentiate product form rather than what? Quotient form. Let's now get the second derivative. This is general power, no? Negative 2 times negative 4, positive 8. Then copy the base. Subtract 1 from the exponent of the base. What's the new exponent, guys? Negative 3. Negative 3. Minus 1 eh. Did you get that? Oy, children. Negative 2 minus 1. You are confused with 2 minus 1. It's not 2 minus 1. It is negative 2 minus 1. Okay? Yan, that's common error. So, this is now derivative of inside 1. So, still 8 x minus 1 raised to negative 3. It so happens that the derivative of the inside is 1. So that's now the second derivative. Or if you want, you can write the second derivative as what? As 8 over x minus 1 raised to 3. No? Is that correct, children? Oh. So, when x is what? When x is 2, yan. So, what is the value of the second derivative? Oh, f double prime of 2. We substitute 8 over 2 minus 1 raised to 3. So, it's still 8 na. Yan. So, that's the value of the second derivative. Okay, guys? Guys, what about if you're asked, oh, what is f prime of, let's say, 1? F prime of 1. F prime of f prime of negative 3. And then also f prime of negative 1. F double prime of negative 5. Yan, tingnan na. F double, sige. We have F prime. Doon tayo sa F prime. Ano sabi F prime? Ito? Yan. F prime of 1. That is negative 4 over x minus 1 yan eh. So, it is 1 minus 1 raised to 2. It is negative 4 over 0, undefined. Undefined. Or, does not exist, no? Does not exist yung value niya. Okay, children? The value of the derivative is not defined. It's not a real number. In other words, there's no tangent line there. And there is no tangent line there. What about f prime of negative 1? F prime of negative 1. That is negative 4 over negative 1 minus 1. Quantity squared. It is negative 2. Is that correct, children? F double prime of, guys, negative 5. What about f prime of negative 5? Dun, f double prime. Doon tayo sa double prime. So, that is 8 over, so negative 5 minus 2. Ay, minus 1, no? Quantity squared. So, that is 8 over 36. And therefore, finally, what is f of negative 5? That is 2 over, 36 divided by 4, 9, no? 2 over 9, am I correct, children? Okay na? Last one, number 3. If you have g of x is equal to, but not all the time in terms of x, ha? You can differentiate relative to other variable if not x is the given. Let's have the square root of 4x cubed minus 8. What is the second derivative of x? G, the second derivative of g. Una muna, first derivative. That is radical. I can go directly, di ba? I told you the formula already for the square root. Derivative of the inside, 12x squared over 2 square root of, yan, you just copy. Yan, that's the shortcut. Which is equal to what? 6, yan, 6x squared over square root. Yan, square root of 4x cubed minus 8. Okay? G double prime. For your practice, you find G double prime. Okay? So, we'll stop right here. You post in our FB group the second derivative. Scan nyo. Is that okay, children? Guys? O, yan ha. And then, for practice, yan, practice lang tong others na to. So, find the derivative. Let's say, we're given f of x is equal to square root of 1 minus square root of 1 minus x. Number 2, g of y yan, is equal to y cubed over y squared plus 4. Number 3, let's say w is equal to, meaning derivative of w, we have 3x cubed minus 5 raised to 2, and then 3x, let's say 5x squared plus 1 raised to 3. Yan. Yan, tatlo. Okay guys, practice. Then you pause ha. If you don't have any more questions, so could you please type in the chat box your name for your attendance, guys. Could you please type